It's Monday, and that means it's time for a brand new episode of Monday Musings. Let's get started. So this past Friday, I finally was able to go see Avengers Endgame. Very excited. Lisa's brother came into town, and we went to see it in the afternoon, 4:15, and got home about 8 o'clock, right in time for our live show. So, very long movie. So I said that I would give my thoughts on Avengers Endgame here, and I will do non-spoiler at first, and then we'll see how it goes. Maybe if I'm going to spoil anything, I'll let you guys know. But just general, basic, quick thoughts on Avengers Endgame. I really, really enjoyed it. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't think it was a perfect film. But I do think it was very solid. I probably liked Avengers Infinity War a little bit better. But that said, I had no problem with the length of the film. I had no problem with the pacing of the film. And aside from some choices that I think could have been handled a little bit differently, I think it was a very solid movie with a lot of character through lines, a lot of conclusions for some of the long-standing characters in this universe. It was this epic story told over the course of almost a decade or over a decade, that kind of saw the entire journey of specific heroes and made the way for a brand new era in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I thought all that was very fitting. The reason for the length of the film, I felt, was because you needed those quieter moments for these characters to mourn the loss. And I know some people had a problem with the 5-year jump. I absolutely love the 5-year jump, and the reason being is because it did give them time to mourn, and it wasn't like, oh, we found a fix, just like that. Ant-Man shows up and gives us a fix. Or some character figures out a way to fix this all 5 minutes after it happens, and that's when we go. That would be ridiculous, in my opinion. So this 5-year jump, it opens a lot of different possibilities, and yeah, it confuses timelines a little bit. And I'll get to that in a minute, maybe. But like I said, I think it enabled them to mourn and move on and learn and grow in different ways than they would have been able to if they just quick fixed it. And I like that because you had certain characters, their journeys went on, and some of them were still hopeful, some of them gave up hope, some of them wallowed in self-pity and self-loathing and felt guilty and blamed themselves, and others were always looking for a solution. So, and some were taken off the field and brought back into the fight right then as the movie was getting started. So I think you needed that 5 years to make that all happen, make that all work, and it made it make sense as to how Hawkeye could change to Ronin and go that far in this whole process, and how you get Captain Marvel involved and all the different areas kind of working together over the course of this time that they've had to pick up the pieces, and how the government has kind of fallen and everything because of half the entire population of the universe gone. And I love the way that they illustrated that this is going on throughout the entire universe, various planets, not just Earth. So I love that aspect of it, and I love that you got to focus on each one of these characters throughout it. Some of the, and I'm not going to spoil who dies and whatever that, but some of the deaths I thought were very powerful, very meaningful. Others I thought might be a little unnecessary. Some of the ways characters may have come back, ways that the final battle took place, certain things that happened in that battle I wasn't a huge fan of, or I think they could have been done differently. But the actual battle I thought was pretty cool. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all I can say, non-spoilery, right? That all these characters' journeys were, for the most part, handled really well, and you got to see some of that conflict that still existed between the various Avengers, and at the same time they pulling together and coming back together to take this fight one more time and eventually save the day, because that's what's going to happen, but not without casualties and loss and moving on. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about a few things. If you have not seen the movie, you probably want to pause and come back at some other time, or or whatever. But okay, so one of the things I did love, because of this 5-year jump, you have certain characters that aged, namely Cassie. Cassie is now a teenager. You also have Harvey Keener, who could potentially become Iron Lad. So you have Iron Lad, and you have Stature, and you could build your Young Avengers team here. You could set up the next era of the Avengers. You also had the passing of the Shield because of what happens with Cap, and it could have gone either way. It could have gone Bucky or Falcon. I love that Bucky was there, and you give it to Falcon, and you take that mantle in a different direction. Iron Man, I love that Harvey Keener was at the funeral, because you do have that next generation, and they could still introduce like Riri down the road, but you have that set up. You have Rhodey already in place. Now you have Harvey Keener, who could follow in the footsteps as well. You've established a lot of things with Easter eggs. I've heard some stuff. Lisa was actually reading up on some stuff. The earthquake in the ocean, it could lead up to a Namor Black Panther kind of dilemma, kind of conflict, and I love that. I thought this whole cinematic universe started with Iron Man, and it kind of ended with Iron Man, and I love that. It was a perfect through line for his character. Sad to see him go, of course. He is Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. It's just, there's no doubt about it. And it was hard to see that, but at the same time, it felt like that complete journey for his character, and it was a fitting in for him, because he basically saved the day. So I love that aspect of it as well. I love that we got to see Thanos die twice, basically, in very different ways. The stuff with Thor, I actually liked it, and I thought it did fit the character. I felt like he was on point, because you got to think that he is basically a Viking god. And Vikings, when I think of Vikings, I think of, like, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, I can't think of his name, but the redheaded wildling leader, that's what I think of a Viking. And I think that's what Thor is a lot of the time. Sometimes he's very serious, sometimes he's very introspective, sometimes he's very humorous. And this loss really hit him hard. He lost a lot in a relatively short span of time, and it broke him. And took him to that point. And I think it was it made sense. The way, it was a beer belly. He drank himself into a beer belly. It wasn't anything more than that. And he just kind of let himself go and wallowed in his guilt and his shame. And I thought it was very well done. And the introduction of Captain Marvel, I like that. I know some people had a problem with her not actually being in the film a lot, but if she had been, that battle would have been very short, because she was a match for Thanos, and she would be basically a Deus Ex Machina. She's the solution to the problem. So if you have her present at all times, it makes everybody else's involvement not as important in the long run. And I think they really did a good job of explaining where she was and why she wasn't in the battle, because there's all these other planets that are going through the same exact thing, and they needed her. So I love that explanation too. Not so fond of the 5-year later haircut, but whatever. Personal preferences. Stuff with Gamora was very interesting, the way that was handled. Black Widow, I mean, I think there's a way to bring her back, but I don't know how I feel about that whole part of the story, the way it played out with one of them fighting to sacrifice themselves, and never addressing that, hey, we just saw the Red Skull, what's up with that? And yeah, I don't know. I just think there was a lot of positives. The moment where all the female characters rallied together in the middle of the battle, I understand the idea behind it. I support and applaud the idea behind it, but the delivery of it felt very forced. It's like, okay, all of a sudden every single woman in the battle is just going to stop what they're doing and converge on this one point and say, we got this. And I know it's kind of a wink and a nod, but at the same time, it kind of diminished their importance individually in that instant, I felt. But that's just me. That's my opinion. But I do like that they are highlighting those characters, because they do deserve it. And the way that everybody just portaled in, and it's like, oh, we got a whole army now. Let's fight. It was a little convenient, but just little nitpicks as far as that goes for me. Overall, I thought it was a fantastic film, fitting end, and it has me kind of sad for some of the passing, but excited for this next era and what they can do with it, and what kind of characters and stories they can tell. And I love the little nod of Asgardians of the Galaxy. I kind of like that, kind of giving a different spin to that whole story, and it's going to be a very interesting Guardians of the Galaxy 3 now. So yeah, overall I thought it was a very solid film, and I'm glad I got to see it as soon as I did, because I did not get spoiled. I somehow managed to avoid spoilers, so I was very happy. But that is my thought, or those are my thoughts on Avengers Endgame. So if you have seen it, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below, and if you agree or disagree with me, and let's talk about it. So otherwise, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and hit that subscribe and notification bell, so you can get updates on all the content going up to this channel. You can follow me at Brant Fowler on Facebook and Twitter, at Last Number Press on Instagram. Until next time, thanks for watching. Be good.